They say every family has that story. You know the one. The story that gets told at every Thanksgiving, every barbecue, every time a new boyfriend or girlfriend gets introduced so everyone can laugh and shake their heads and say, "Oh, you have no idea what this family is capable of." This is ours. And apparently, according to my grandson's friends and half of TikTok, it's the most insane grandma revenge story of 2025. I didn't plan it that way. I just planned a vacation. I'm 60. My knees feel 75 on a humid day. My back sounds like bubble wrap when I stand up, and I walk with one of those aluminum walkers that has the little tennis balls on the back legs. Classy, I know. I live in a small town in Ohio, in a condo complex that smells like fabric softener and boiled chicken. Widowed, comfortable, not rich. The kind of woman who keeps her bills in labeled folders and still prints directions just in case the GPS goes crazy. My pride and joy? My grandsons, Ethan and Aiden, 18-year-old twins. They used to be my two boys who smelled like graham crackers and sunscreen, who cried if I left the room, who thought I hung the moon. Now they're 6 feet of attitude each, with permanent AirPods, zero coping skills, and the emotional range of a damp sock. Do I love them? Of course. Do I like them lately? Let's call it inconsistent. The problem, as I see it, is that my daughter Jenna and her husband Mark tried so hard to give their boys the childhood they never had that they skipped the consequences chapter entirely. The twins get a new iPhone each time a new color comes out. They've never worked a day in their lives, and when they got their car, they complained it was only a used Honda. So embarrassing, Ethan had said, with a straight face, standing in my driveway like he was being handed a lawnmower engine and a stick. He had a car at 18. I didn't drive until 30. My first car's main feature was sometimes stops. But sure, embarrassing. The worst part wasn't the stuff, though. It was the way they started talking to people. Server brings them the wrong soda. What is this? With that sneer. Their mother asked them to help unload groceries in a minute that never comes. Me? I'd love to visit you, Nana, but your Wi-Fi sucks, Aiden told me last summer, thumbs flying over his phone. Our internet at home is like 5 times faster. He said it while sitting at my kitchen table, eating my pancakes, using my Wi-Fi. I remember looking at him and thinking, somewhere along the line, we failed you. So, like any rational woman in a midlife crisis with a decent retirement account and a fake hip, I decided to book a trip. Spain. I'd always wanted to go. The architecture, the food, the art. I had a picture in my head of myself in a flowy linen shirt, sitting at a cafe in some old city square, sipping coffee while church bells rang and tourists wandered. I was going to do it alone. Then Jenna called. "You're going to Spain?" she said, voice crackling over the speakerphone. "Yes," I said, a little pleased with myself. "I found a senior tour group that does Barcelona and Seville very accessible. They have buses with lifts for my walker and everything." "Oh my God, Mom, that sounds amazing," she said. "Oh, the boys would love that." I should have known that tone. That tone has cost me thousands over the years. "The boys?" I repeated. "Yeah," Jenna barreled on. "They did Spanish in high school. They've been saying they want to travel before college. This would be perfect. They could help you with your luggage and your walker and all that. It'd be such a great bonding experience." I could picture it already. Me trying to get up a bus ramp while 2 boys rolled their eyes, wishing they were on a beach somewhere with girls their age and drinks and pineapples. I don't know if they'd enjoy. Of course they would, and they'd keep you safe. Jenna lowered her voice. "I worry about you traveling alone, Mom. You know, with your mobility." Ah, there it was. Guilt, my old friend. I was being gently herded into the fragile elderly pen. "I'm not helpless, Jenna," I said. "I managed to raise you while your father worked night shifts, remember?" "I know, Mom," she said sweetly, "but it'd make me feel so much better. Please, just think about it." She'd already thought about it. That much was obvious. We hung up. I sat with my cup of tea, staring at my computer screen with the bright pictures and gaudy buildings staring back at me. I really had imagined this trip as a last little adventure for myself. Then I thought about the boys, about the way they'd been acting, about how they barely looked up from their phones. And something in my chest squeezed. Maybe this was a chance. One last shot to get through to them before the world did it, with rent and layoffs and broken hearts. I called Jenna back. Fine, I said. They can come, but they share a room and they pay for their own souvenirs. I'll cover flights and hotel and food. That's my limit. Mom, you're the best, she breathed. They're going to be so excited. They were, in fact, excited for about 10 minutes. Then the requests started. Does the hotel have a pool? Is there a gym? Will there be, outlets on the plane? I'm not going if my phone dies mid-flight. Spain is, safe, right? Because if we get kidnapped or something, that'd be insanely not cool. I told myself they were just nervous. I had told myself a lot of things. The day we left, it was already chaos. I was ready an hour early, suitcase by the door, wearing my compression socks and a money belt like the seasoned grandma I am. The boys rolled in 15 minutes late, still half asleep, wearing matching sweatpants, each dragging one giant suitcase that I could have fit into. Do you have your passports? I asked for the third time that week. Ethan patted his hoodie pocket with an eye roll. Yes, Nana. Aiden lifted his phone. I put a pic of it in my iCloud too, just in case. That won't get you past security, I said. Chill, he sighed. At the airport, they walked ahead, never looking back to see if I'd cleared security, if I was stuck taking my shoes off, if someone was giving me a hard time about my walker. I watched them breeze through TSA like they owned the place, and I felt something hot and unpleasant start in my chest. On the plane, they swapped seats with strangers to sit together, meaning I ended up 3 rows back between a snorer and a man who clearly had not discovered deodorant. At one point during the flight, turbulence hit. It was rougher than usual. I gripped my armrests and did a quiet inventory of my sins, in case we hit the ocean at terminal velocity. Ethan and Aiden? They laughed. This is sick, Ethan shouted over the rumble. It's like a roller coaster. They didn't even glance back to see if I was okay. I closed my eyes and breathed slowly until the plane leveled out. This is for bonding, I reminded myself. They're just kids. But every time I repeated, just kids, it tasted more and more like an excuse. Barcelona hit me like a hot, beautiful slap. The air was thick with humidity and something delicious. Olive oil, grilled meat, coffee. The buildings looked like someone had taken regular city blocks and asked an artist to dream harder. We got to the hotel, checked into our rooms, mine on the 5th floor, theirs next door, and I thought, you did it. Look at you. 60, in Spain, with your grandsons. We were tired and sticky and smelled like recycled airplane air, but we were here. Let's go out and walk a little, I said. Just around the block. Get our bearings. Nah, I'm good, Aiden said, flopping on his bed. Same, Ethan mumbled, already scrolling on his phone. Jet lag, Nana. You can go if you want. If I wanted to walk alone, I could have stayed in Ohio, I said lightly. They ignored me. I ended up sitting by the window, watching the city move below me, a little overwhelmed, a little lonely. Eventually, I ordered room service, ate my overpriced club sandwich in silence, and went to bed, to the muffled sound of laughter through the wall. Day 2 went better, for a while. We did a walking tour in the morning. I was slow, sure, but I kept up. My walker clacked on the uneven stone streets. The guide, a young woman with a ponytail and sensible shoes, spoke in clear English, explaining the history, the architecture. I was in heaven. The boys, not so much. Do we have to stand in the sun the whole time? Aiden muttered. I didn't know this was school, Ethan said loud enough for the guide to hear. They weren't awful, exactly. Just dismissive, detached. They hovered behind the group, laughing at memes, taking selfies with duck faces. At lunch, I treated them to tapas. I ordered tortilla, española, patatas bravas, jamón ibérico. This looks weird, Aiden said. It's potatoes, I said. You eat potatoes. Yeah, but they're foreign potatoes. They both ended up ordering burgers.
from McDonald's in Barcelona. I stared at them over my little glass of wine and thought, I flew you across an ocean for this? That night, I tried again. Tomorrow, I'd like to go to the cathedral in the morning, then maybe the park in the afternoon. We can stop for churros on the way. Ugh, Ethan groaned, not looking up from his phone. Can we have one day where it's not like church and old buildings? Yeah, we want to go to the beach, Aiden said.
There's a club some kids from school went to last year. They said it was lit. When he says kids from school, he means the one boy in their town whose parents let him do cocaine at Coachella. I rubbed my forehead. Here's what we'll do, I said. Morning, we do something I want. Afternoon, we do something you want. Compromise. That's how family works. They both groaned like I just suggested a root canal. But they agreed. Or so I thought. The day it happened, the sun was a living creature. That's the only way I can describe it. A big, glaring animal perched over the city, pressing down on us. I could feel it in my scalp, on the back of my neck, under my clothes. We were in the Gothic Quarter, wandering through narrow streets that looked plucked out of another century. Stone buildings leaned inward like they were gossiping. Laundry hung from balconies. There were little shops with fans spinning lazily, and every few blocks, some tourists snapped a picture like they were the first to ever discover it. My shirt was sticking to my back. My walker squeaked every few steps. I was slow, yes, but I was moving. Can we speed this up? Ethan snapped finally. We're never going to make it to the beach at this rate. We have all day, I said, breathing a little heavier. The beach isn't going anywhere. Yeah, but the girls might, Aiden said, smirking. I stopped and looked at them. Boys, I said carefully, I am doing my best. If you wanted a fast-paced spring break party, you should have gone with your friends, not your grandmother with a walker. They exchanged a look. That teenager look of conspiracy, of I know you, I know what you'll do, I know your weak spots. Fine, said Ethan suddenly, too bright. Let's just do this one church thing left, then the beach, okay? There was something in his tone I didn't like, but the heat had melted my suspicion. We turned into a little square. There was a shady bench next to an old stone wall. Nana, why don't you sit here for a second? Aiden said, all solicitous. We'll go grab cold water from that shop on the corner. You look kinda flushed. I was flushed. My hairline was damp, my legs ached. I glanced over. The shop was maybe 50 yards away. Bright sign, open door, people going in and out. I hesitated. We'll be right back, Ethan added. Promise. They said it so fast, their eyes sliding past mine. But my body was tired. Fine, I sighed, lowering myself onto the bench. Get me something cold, water, or maybe a Coke, and don't take off without me. Obviously, Ethan said. You're our ride home, Aiden joked. They walked away, tall and confident, blending into the flow of tourists. I watched them for a moment, watched their heads bob above the crowd, watched them turn the wrong way. Boys, I called, frowning. They didn't look back. They turned down a side street, laughing at something on Aiden's phone. I waited. Maybe they'd realize they'd gone the wrong way. Maybe they'd circle back. A minute passed. Then 5. The bench was hard. The heat clawed at my face. I shifted my weight, my knees complaining. A woman about my age sat down next to me, murmured something in Spanish, smiled kindly. I smiled back, though I didn't understand. 10 minutes. 20. My cold drink never arrived. The realization didn't come in a burst. It seeped in, slow and sickening. They're not coming back. Oh, they would come back eventually, to the hotel, to the city, to reality. But they had left me there, on purpose, because I was slow, because I was embarrassing, because I was a burden, because their afternoon party mattered more than my basic safety. My mouth went dry. I scanned the square again. No tall boys in Ohio State t-shirts. No familiar heads of floppy brown hair. I tried to remember our hotel name. I had the key card, at least, tucked into my little crossbody bag. It had a logo on it, a stylized H and a city skyline. Bella, something. My brain was hot and fuzzy. I did not have my phone. Why would I? My grandsons had theirs. We always traveled together. If we get separated, we'll call you, they said. I felt my heartbeat climb up my throat. I was alone, in a foreign country, in the noon heat with a walker, and no phone and no language, and the only people I thought I could lean on had walked away. Not drifted, not gotten accidentally separated in a crowd. Walked. My hands started to shake. I closed my eyes for a second, long enough to take one of those deep, forced breaths they tell you to do in yoga. When I opened them, I wasn't any less scared, but I was focused. I'm not stupid. Old, sure. Slow, yes, but not stupid. If there's one thing I learned from 50 years of being a wife, a mother, and a woman in the world, it's that no one is going to save you but you. First step, get out of the sun. I pushed myself up off the bench, hands shaking, and started walking. Every step hurt. My lower back throbbed. The cobblestones were uneven, and my walker bumped and rattled. I followed the widest street. Wide streets usually lead to main roads. Main roads lead to taxis. Taxis lead home. People streamed past me, speaking Spanish, French, German, English, with accents I couldn't quite place. I caught fragments. The tour starts. I told you already. No, mañana. Cars honked in the distance. Somewhere a busker was singing. I kept going. After what felt like an hour but was probably 10 minutes, I found a slightly larger street with an actual stoplight and a crosswalk. I kept my eyes peeled for the green and black of a taxi. One passed me, full, then another, and another. I realized, vaguely horrifying, that I had no idea where my hotel was in relation to where I stood. I had followed a tour guide's umbrella this morning like a duckling. I'd paid no attention to where we'd turned, which alleys we'd ducked into. My walker thunked on the curb as I stepped off to cross the street. Cars waited impatiently as I shuffled across. On the far side, a young woman nearly ran into me. "Oh, sorry," she said in accented English. I grabbed at the chance like a lifeline. "Hotel," I said, holding up my key card. "Do you know where?" She took the card, squinted at it. "Hotel Bella Vista," she read. I'm not sure, but maybe metro or taxi?" "I don't know where I am," I admitted. My voice shook more than I liked. Her face softened. "You're alone?" she asked. "My grandsons." My throat tightened. "We got separated." Her eyebrows went up, just a little. "Noted." She glanced at her watch, then back at me. "Okay," she said briskly. "I can help you. I walk you to Main Street, we find taxi. You show them card, they take you." I wanted to cry. Instead, I nodded. She walked beside me, slowing her normal pace so she matched my shuffle. "My name is Lucia," she said. "Nancy," I said. We made small talk. She was a student, lived outside the city, thought the tourists were funny but good for business. We reached a busier street. I could feel the heat bouncing off the asphalt now. I was sweating through my shirt. Lucia stepped out, one hand up, and flagged down a taxi with all the confidence of a traffic cop. The car pulled over. She leaned in and spoke rapid Spanish to the driver, gesturing at my keycard, at me, at my walker. The driver, a man in his 40s with sunglasses and a mustache, nodded, shrugged, said something back. "He knows it. He take you. You have money?" I did. Cash and a credit card. I dug out a 20-euro bill with shaking fingers. She helped me maneuver into the back seat.
The driver folded my walker and put it in the trunk. Gracias, I told her, and meant it with my whole being. She smiled. No problem, Nancy. Be careful, okay? The taxi door shut. The driver merged into traffic. I sagged against the seat, my heart still pounding, the adrenaline starting to ebb. Out the window, the city blurred past, graffiti, palm trees, laundry on balconies. I tried not to think about what could have happened if I'd gotten more lost, if I hadn't found someone kind, if I had stumbled, fallen, passed out, if my heart had decided, you know what, I'm done. By the time we pulled up in front of the hotel, my shake had settled into a deep, leaden exhaustion. The lobby was blissfully cool. I made it to the elevator, to my room, to the little chair by the window. Then I sat there for a long time. The boys weren't back yet. Of course they weren't. Why would they be? Their day had just begun. My first instinct was to call Jenna, tell her what happened, let her rage on my behalf, demand I cut the trip short and come home. But my phone was back in Ohio, on the table by my front door. I had brought my tablet, though. I dug it out of my suitcase, hands still trembling, and connected to the hotel Wi-Fi. Emails, news, a message from my neighbor about the mail. I stared at the login page for a full minute. Then, slowly, carefully, I opened a video call window. Jenna answered, her hair up in a messy bun, spatula in hand. Hey, Mom, how's Spain? Oh my God, the boys sent a selfie from some crazy alley. It looks so cool. My vision tunneled. They abandoned me. The spatula clattered onto the stove. What? I told her. All of it. The bench, the heat, watching them turn away, the endless walk, Lucia.
The taxi. Jenna's face went through several expressions: confusion, disbelief, horror, anger. They left you? She said finally. On purpose? They didn't get lost, I said. My voice was strangely calm. They never went to the shop. They turned and went down another street. I watched them. She brought her hand to her mouth. What if something had happened to you? She whispered. What if? I agreed softly. I have no phone, Jenna. I don't speak the language. If that girl hadn't helped me. She shook her head, eyes filling with tears. I'm calling them right now, she said. I'm going to. No, I said sharply. She froze. Mom, not yet. I took a breath. I need you to listen to me very carefully, I said. Your sons just made a very clear statement. To you, to me, to the world. They said our grandmother's safety is less important than our fun. Jenna flinched. Now, if we scream at them, if we drag them home, if we tell them what terrible boys they are, do you know what will happen? I asked. They'll apologize, they'll cry, they'll say they didn't realize, and then they'll go right back to doing exactly what they were doing before. Her eyes shone. So what are you saying? She whispered. I'm saying, I said slowly, that your mother is very tired of being treated like luggage. Silence hummed between us. Mom, what are you going to do? She asked finally. I looked out the window at the city, glowing in the late afternoon sun. The anger that had been simmering under my fear clicked into place, sharp and cold. I'm going to teach them what it actually feels like to be abandoned, I said. But I'm going to do it safely and legally, and in a way they will never, ever forget. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed and thought about all the times those boys had chosen convenience over kindness. The time they refused to help me bring in my groceries because they had just started a game. The time they mocked an old man at the mall for walking slowly. The time Aiden asked, do we have to invite Nana to graduation? It's going to be crowded. I thought about the look on their faces when they turned away from me in that square, like I was a suitcase they decided was too heavy. By morning, I had a plan. First stop, the front desk. Buenos dias, the clerk said as I shuffled up. Young man, perfect hair, smile that probably gotten him a lot of free drinks. Good morning, I said. I need, 2
2 things." He nodded, attentive. "First," I said, sliding my passport and credit card across the counter, "I need to extend my stay by, let's say, 3 days. Same floor, preferably a room next to mine." He tapped on the keyboard. "We have a room available right next door. 5 nights, including your original reservation." "Perfect," I said. "Book it." He clicked away, then handed me a second key card marked 512. My original was 510. "Second thing," I said, lowering my voice, "I'm traveling with my grandsons, 2 young men, both tall, dark hair. They're in room 511. If they come down and ask if you've seen me, or say they've lost me, or ask for my room number, you haven't." He blinked. "Excuse me?" he said. "I'm not unsafe," I said quickly. "I'm not being abused. This is not an emergency. I am simply enforcing a lesson." I smiled thinly. "They left me alone in the city yesterday, on purpose. I'm going to give them a small taste of their own medicine, but I will be watching them the whole time. I just need your cooperation." He hesitated. "I don't want them actually hurt," I added quickly. "If they're truly in distress, of course you can tell me I'm here. But if they're just inconvenienced, let them be. I will check in with you regularly." He considered, then slowly a grin broke across his face. "I have brothers," he said. "I understand." "I knew I liked this hotel," I said. We shook on it. Next up, airline website. I went back up to my original room, propped my tablet on the little desk, and logged into my email. Sure enough, there it was. The confirmation for 3 round-trip tickets. 1 for me, 2 for them, all purchased on my card. I clicked through to the airline's Manage Booking page, heart ticking up a notch. There's something very powerful about knowing your name is the one attached to the credit card. I sat there a moment, staring at the screen. Then I canceled their return flights. Not mine, just theirs. Click, confirm, cancellation fee, fine.
I probably couldn't buy another big vacation this year, but that was okay. This one was about to be very educational. Then I did something extremely petty and extremely satisfying. I opened my cell provider's website. I pay for a family plan. On it, my unused smartphone in Ohio and 2 very much used smartphones traveling Europe on my dime. I clicked suspend service on both boys' lines. Not permanent, not some irreversible punishment, just silence. I sat back and exhaled. My hands shook a little, but this time it wasn't from fear. I packed my necessities into a smaller bag and moved them into my new room, 512. I left the old room looking lived in, clothes in the drawer, my toiletries by the sink, one of my shoes by the bed. I wrote a note and left it on the pillow in 510. "Boys," it said, "I got back to the hotel safely. I know you left me on purpose. I will not be traveling with you like this any longer. You are legally adults. Consider this an opportunity to figure out how to get home without treating your grandmother like baggage. I am safe. Do not panic. Nana." Was it dramatic? Yes. Was it justified? You bet. I taped the note where they'd see it immediately. Then I wheeled my walker quietly next door, shut the door to 512, and sat down in the chair by the connecting wall. And I waited. They came stomping down the hallway around noon. I could hear them laughing, talking over each other. "Told you she'd be in bed all morning. Wasted so much time yesterday." The door to 511 beeped, then thumped open. I heard the dull clatter of backpacks hitting the floor. Then, silence. "That's weird," Ethan said. "Nana?" More silence. "Maybe she's in the bathroom," Aiden said, less certain. Drawers opened and shut. Footsteps crossed the room. Paper crinkled. "What the hell?" Ethan breathed. I pictured him holding the note. I pictured his face as he read the words, "I know you left me on purpose." In 512, I allowed myself the smallest, meanest smile.
What does it say? Aiden asked. Ethan read it out loud. He stumbled over legally adults, said like luggage instead of baggage, but the gist was there. There was a beat of stunned quiet. Then, "She can't do that," Aiden said. "She literally did," Ethan shot back. "She doesn't even have a phone. How is she? Where is she? She can't just vanish. She's old," Ethan finished. The word hung in the air. There was a scuffle, like someone pacing. "We need to find her," Aiden said. "What if she fell or something?" "Then why did you leave her in the first place?" Ethan snapped. "Oh, so now we're circling the real issue." I sat on my bed and watched the dust motes float in the shaft of light from the window. "Let's check the lobby," Aiden said finally. "Maybe she's down there, I don't know, drinking tea with other old people or whatever." They stomped out. I waited 30 seconds, then grabbed my walker and eased my door open just a crack. I could see their door across the hall standing open. The note was gone. I shuffled to the elevator, jabbed a button for the floor above instead of the lobby, and waited. It opened. A tourist couple got in. German, maybe. Backpacks, sunburned noses. "Lobby, please?" the woman asked. "Yes, please," I said, tucking myself into the corner. The elevator stopped on the boys' floor on the way down. The doors slid open. For a split second, it was like some badly staged play. Me in the corner, head slightly turned away, the twins standing there with wild eyes, clearly mid-argument. They didn't see me. They were too caught up in their own crisis. "I'm telling you, she probably just went on a walk. She does that. In this heat? Without us? After yesterday? You saw the note, man. She's pissed." The doors closed again. I had to bite the inside of my cheek to keep from laughing. Downstairs, I let the German couple go ahead. I positioned myself behind a decorative pillar by the bar and watched. The boys approached the front desk. "Hi," Aiden said, trying to sound casual and failing. "Our grandmother, she's staying here. We can't find her. Did she, come down this morning?" The clerk glanced at me, barely, then back at them. "I am sorry. I cannot share information about other guests." "She's not other guests. She's our grandmother. She could be lost or..." "Sir, if she is in trouble, she will contact you, yes? She has your numbers." They both nodded. Somewhere, thousands of miles away, 2 phone lines currently read, "Service suspended." "But she doesn't have a phone," Aiden admitted. The clerk raised his eyebrows.
"Well, then perhaps you should have stayed with her," he said mildly. I almost applauded. They deflated, just a little. "Can we leave a note for her?" Ethan asked. "Of course," the clerk said. "Write it here." Ethan scribbled something on hotel stationery. His hands were shaking. I wondered what the note said. "Okay," Aiden said as they walked away. "It's fine. She's mad, but she's okay. Going home will fix everything. Our flight is tomorrow, right? She has to be there for that." "Yeah," Ethan said. "She can't just, leave us." They laughed, a nervous, brittle sound. "Let's go to the beach," Aiden said, suddenly, too loud. "Maybe we'll see her on the way." Denial is a powerful drug. The next day was their flight home, or it would have been. I spent the morning in the hotel lounge, sipping coffee very slowly, my tablet out, pretending to read. Every now and then I glanced at the lobby doors. Around 10, the boys came down, backpacks on, rolling luggage, restless energy practically sparking off them. They'd grown quieter over the last day. I'd heard less laughter through the wall, more pacing, less music, more sighs. They approached the front desk. "Taxi to the airport, please," Ethan said. The clerk called one. As they waited, Aiden scanned the lobby like I might pop out from behind a plant. Spoiler, I did not. The taxi arrived. They wrestled their suitcases into the trunk. I watched from my chair as they drove away, twin silhouettes in the back seat. I gave them
20 minutes. Then I hobbled to the front desk. Do you mind calling me a taxi too? I asked. The clerk grinned. Of course, Senora Nancy. Any word from them? I asked quietly. They asked again this morning if we had seen you, he said. I told them no. They looked guilty. Good, I said. Let's keep it that way a little longer. The ride to the airport was oddly peaceful. I watched the city glide by, sun dancing off windows, laundry swaying. At the terminal, I asked the driver to drop me at a different entrance than the boys would have used. Then I made my way inside, moving slowly, staying to the sides. I knew their flight number. I knew the airline. And thanks to my earlier tinkering, I knew exactly what was waiting for them at the check-in counter. I found a cafe with a good vantage point, ordered tea, sat by the window. It took about 10 minutes. There they were. They approached the check-in line, dragging their suitcases, passports in hand. They looked tired now, less swagger, more tension around the eyes. They stepped up to the counter. I wished I could hear. I saw the agent type, look at the screen, frown. She spoke. Ethan's shoulders stiffened. He said something. She shook her head, pointed at the screen, typed again. Aiden leaned in, voice raised slightly. The agent held up her hands in that universal "there's nothing I can do" gesture. Ethan pulled out his wallet, showed her a card. She shook her head again, gestured to another desk, the customer service one, where problems go to multiply. The twins stepped aside. They looked lost. I sipped my tea. A few minutes later, they trudged to a bench, dropped their luggage, and sat heavily. I could see panic starting to creep in. They looked at their phones. Right on cue, confusion bloomed on their faces. Aiden tapped his screen, frowned, held it up. "No service?" I imagined him saying. "What do you mean, no service? We had it yesterday." Ethan probably replied. They tried to piggyback on the airport Wi-Fi, no doubt, but some systems still require a functioning phone number to verify. I let them twist for a while, watch them argue, gesture, stand up and sit down, reapproach the counter, only to be turned away again. At one point, I saw Aiden rub his face hard with both hands like he was trying to wake himself up from a bad dream. Good. Wake up. Eventually, they gathered their luggage and shuffled away, out of my line of sight. That was the part that nearly broke me. Some deeply programmed part of me, the grandmother part, wanted to call out, to wave, to say, "Over here, sweethearts! Nana's here! It's all okay!" I gripped my teacup instead. "You did not leave them first," I reminded myself. "You are not the one who walked away from family in a foreign country." The universe had simply handed me the rare opportunity to hold up a mirror. They were the ones who didn't like what they saw. I gave them the rest of the day. I went back to the hotel.
Took a nap. Watched some Spanish game show I didn't understand. Around 6, there was a commotion in the hallway, raised voices. I turned off the TV and listened. "I told you not to spend so much on that stupid shirt. Like you didn't blow 50 euros on that club cover." "Guys, please," said a third voice, older, accented. "I am trying to help you, but you must calm down." I rolled to the door and put my ear to it. "Look, is there any way we can just, pay you back later?" Ethan was saying. "We're Americans," Aiden added. "We're good for it. We can Venmo you when we get home." "Chicos," the older man said wearily. "I am not a bank." I frowned. I opened my door a hair. Out in the hall, one of the hotel's older security guards stood with his arms folded. He had kind eyes and a belly that said he took his lunch breaks seriously. The twins faced him, rumpled and sweaty and clearly at the end of their rope. "Please," Aiden said, We just need some money for a taxi and food. Our cards aren't working right, and our flight got messed up, and we can't get a hold of our Nana, and—" He swiped at his eyes. 18 or not, he suddenly looked all of 12. My heart pinched. The guard shook his head. "Talk to the front desk," he said. "They can maybe call someone for you." He walked away. The boys slumped against the wall and slid down until they were sitting on the carpet. "We're so screwed," Ethan said. "Mom is going to kill us," Aiden whispered. "Mom," Ethan echoed bleakly. "Dude, Nana is going to kill us. Mom will just cry." They sat in silence for a moment. "I can't believe she canceled our tickets," Aiden said finally. "She warned us," Ethan replied. "We just didn't think she meant it." "We left her for like 20 minutes, Aiden protested weakly. "Dude, we were gone for hours," Ethan shot back. "We went to the beach, then the bar. We didn't even text her." Silence again. A different kind now. The kind where the weight of your own actions starts to sink in. "I keep seeing her sitting on that bench," Aiden said. "In the sun. Just sitting there. She looked kinda confused," Ethan admitted when we walked away. "You knew," I thought. "You knew even then." Guilt is a funny thing. It arrives late, but sticks around forever. I shut my door and let them sit with it. That night, I video called Jenna again from my hidden room. She looked terrible. Puffy eyes, tense jaw. "They couldn't board their flight," the airline emailed me. "I know," I said calmly. "Mom," she hissed, "Mark is freaking out. He says what I'm doing is letting your sons experience the consequences of abandoning an elderly woman in a foreign country. They're scared. They've been blowing up my phone." "I suspended their service," I said. "They can still email you from the hotel computer if they're truly desperate. And they can call collect from the lobby phone. They're not stranded on a mountaintop. They're in a 4-star hotel with room service and air conditioning." "That they can't pay for," she cried. "You canceled their flights. You shut off their phones. What if they do something stupid? Like walk away from their grandmother and leave her sitting alone in a hot square?" I said sweetly. She glared. "I'm not saying they don't deserve a scare, but Mom, you're scaring me too." I sighed. "Jenna," I said gently, "I am not asking you to like this. I'm asking you to trust me. You have spent 18 years cushioning your boys from every bump. They don't think gravity applies to them. They do not grasp that their choices affect other human beings." She swallowed. "I'm with them," I continued. "Not right next to them, but close enough. I saw them at the airport. I saw them back at the hotel. They are tired, hungry, and confused. That's good. That's the beginning of thinking." She covered her face with her hands. "I'm terrified they're going to hate you for this," she whispered. "They already treat me like a burden," I said. "Hatred would at least be an emotion." She dropped her hands and stared at me. "I'll bring them home," I said, "in one piece. And if I'm wrong, if this doesn't change anything, I'll back off. I'll accept that the world will smack them eventually. But I'm not going home early and pretending that sorry Nana fixes this." Her shoulders sagged. Okay. 2 more days. That's my limit. After that, I'm booking flights myself, and we're dragging them home." "Deal," I said.
2 days. We hung up. I closed my tablet and stared at my own reflection in the dark screen. I looked tired, hard, but there was something else too. Something like resolve. The next morning, I knocked on 511, softly. There was a pause, then a shuffling. The door cracked open. Ethan stood there, his hair stuck up in weird places. There were dark circles under his eyes. He wore the same t-shirt as yesterday. His face went through 3 different expressions in under a second. Shock,
relief, then something like shame. "Nana!" he croaked. Behind him, Aiden appeared, toothbrush in hand, foam at the corners of his mouth. When he saw me, he froze. For a long moment, none of us said anything. I took him in. My big boy, taller than me now, reduced to a scared kid. "Can I come in?" I asked. They scrambled aside like I was the queen and they were failing guards. I shuffled into the room, parked my walker by the desk, and sat carefully on the edge of the bed. The room smelled like teenage boy. Sweat, anxiety, a hint of cheap cologne. Their luggage was still half-packed. Open suitcases spilled clothes onto the floor. An empty water bottle lay on its side. I looked from one to the other. "Well," I said finally, "how was your adventure?" They both rushed to speak at once. "Nana, we're so sorry. We thought you... I didn't mean..." I held up a hand. "Stop," I said quietly. They shut up. I took a slow breath. "You left me," I said, "on a bench in a foreign city with no phone, in the heat, because you wanted to go to the beach." "We thought you'd be fine," Aiden whispered. "Do I look fine to you?" I asked. He looked at my swollen ankles, the purpling bruises from where the walker had bumped against them. His eyes shone. I didn't need him to answer. "I'm not interested in excuses," I said. "You're not 6. You're 18. Old enough to vote, old enough to enlist, old enough to go to prison, if we're being brutally honest. You are old enough to know better." Ethan flinched. "We were stupid," he muttered. "We know that now." Stupid would have been walking too far ahead. Stupid would have been forgetting to check if I was keeping up. Leaving me, deliberately sitting behind so you could go party? That's not just stupid, that's cruel. The word landed heavy in the room. Cruel. They both flinched. I let it sit there. "What did you think would happen?" I asked. "Best case scenario." Ethan swallowed. "Honestly," he said, voice barely above a whisper, "we thought you'd be annoyed and then we'd come back a couple hours later and you'd still be at the hotel. We just wanted one day where we didn't have to walk slow or worry about your grandmother's safety," I supplied. He nodded miserably. "We didn't think," Aiden said. "We just didn't think." "That," I said, "is exactly the problem. You have had 18 years of other people thinking for you, of your mother and father and me, filling in the gaps, smoothing over your messes, making sure you never have to sit in discomfort for more than 5 minutes." They exchanged a guilty glance. "That ends," I said simply, "now." I looked them both in the eyes, one at a time. "Do you know why your phone stopped working?" I asked. "Because the universe hates us?" Aiden muttered. "Because I suspended your lines. I pay for them. I turn them off." Their mouths dropped open. "Do you know why your flight home was canceled?" I continued. Their eyes widened further. "You?" Ethan croaked. "Me," I said. "I bought those tickets. I canceled yours, kept mine. The airline thinks you're no-shows. That's..." Aiden began, then stopped. "That's what? Unfair? Dangerous? Inconvenient?" He deflated. "Scary," he said. "Good," I replied. "It was supposed to be. Not because I want you to suffer, but because I want you to understand in your bones what it feels like when the person you rely on walks away." Tears gathered in Aiden's eyes. Ethan looked like someone had yanked the floor out from under him. "We couldn't call anyone. We tried Mom, but no service. We tried using the hotel computer, but we don't know any of the passwords, and everything is in Spanish. And the lady at the desk said we needed a credit card for the phone, and our cards got declined because your cards are attached to my account, and I put a hold on international transactions." He blinked.
"You did all that?" he said, awe mingled with horror. "I may walk with a frame," I said dryly, "but I'm not helpless." Silence settled. Then, softly, I asked the only question that really mattered. "Did you feel safe the last 2 days?" They looked at each other. Yes, Ethan said slowly. I mean, we were freaked out, but the hotel is nice. The city seems safe. We had a roof over our heads. We slept in chairs in the lobby last night, Aiden added, because we were scared if we went out we'd miss you coming back. The security guard gave us blankets. Oh, I know, I said. I asked him to keep an eye on you. They stared. What? You think I vanished without making sure you had a safety net? I snorted. Please. I'm petty, not evil. I told the front desk to call me immediately if you tried to leave the city, got into trouble, or started sobbing uncontrollably. A ghost of a smile flickered across Ethan's mouth. So you, what, watched us? He asked. From a distance, I said. I was at the airport yesterday, sat in a cafe and watched you try to board a flight you couldn't get on. I saw you on that bench, saw you look at each other like two kids who just realized their parents aren't behind them in the grocery store. Aiden's cheeks reddened. That was the worst feeling, he muttered. Like the world suddenly got too big. Good, I said softly. Remember it, because that's how I felt, sitting on that bench when you walked away. Multiply it by arthritis and a weak ankle, and you might get close. Tears spilled over now. Aiden scrubbed at his eyes. I'm sorry, Nana. I'm so sorry. I was a jerk. I didn't think of you as, like, someone who could get hurt. I'm not a piece of furniture, I said. I'm a person. I'm your grandmother. I changed your diapers. I watched Cars 50 times in a row because you cried when Lightning McQueen didn't get the piston cup. You don't get to treat me like a suitcase you can leave on a curb. Ethan's voice was hoarse. We don't deserve you, he mumbled. Not the way you've been acting, I agreed. They winced. Can you forgive us? Aiden asked. I looked at them for a long moment. I love you, I said. That's not up for debate. Forgiveness is more complicated. They held their breath. I am willing, I said slowly, to consider this the turning point. The day you stopped being overgrown children and started being men. Men take responsibility. Men protect their family. Men don't abandon grandmothers in foreign cities. They nodded furiously. We'll do better, Ethan said. I swear. I'm not interested in words anymore, I said. I want actions. Here's what's going to happen. They straightened, like soldiers about to receive orders. First, I said, I am going to rebook your flights home for tomorrow. We will all fly back together. Until then, you do not leave my side. If I go to the lobby, you're there. If I go to the bathroom, you're outside the door. You carry my walker up every curb. You make sure I have water. If I drop so much as a tissue, you pick it up. That's fair, Ethan said quickly. Second, I said, when we get home, you will get jobs. Part-time, full-time, I don't care. But you will work. Every cent you make until the cost of this trip is paid back goes to me. Flights, hotel, food, cancellation fees, rebooking fees. I will give you the number. You will pay it down. You will feel what it is to sacrifice for someone else's comfort. Aiden nodded hard. Third, I said, we're going to family therapy. You, me, your mother, your father if he can manage to pry himself away from the golf course. You will sit there and listen to what it has been like to love two boys who roll their eyes at kindness. And you will talk about whatever hole inside you made you think it was okay to walk away. Ethan looked like he wanted to protest, thought better of it. Okay, he said instead. And lastly, I said, voice softening just a little, for the rest of this trip, we do it my way. You will come with me to the cathedral. You will listen to the guide. You will taste churros that are not from a theme park. And you will do it without sighing like you're being tortured. In return, I promise not to tell every single girl you ever bring home about the time you abandoned your grandmother in Spain." Aiden let out a wet laugh. "That's blackmail," he sniffed. "That's leverage," I corrected. "Welcome to adulthood." They actually smiled, small, wobbly.
But real. So, does this mean you're not going to, leave us in the airport again? Ethan asked. "I think you've had enough of that lesson," I said dryly. "The rest is up to you." Aiden surged forward. For a second, I thought he was going to fall to his knees or something dramatic. Instead, he knelt in front of me, gently took my hand, and pressed his forehead to it. "I'm really sorry, Nana," he whispered. "I won't forget this. Ever." Ethan sat on my other side and put an arm around my shoulders, awkward and tentative. "I got your back from now on," he said. "Even when you walk slow." My throat tightened. "Good," I managed. "Because I plan on walking slow for a very long time." The next day, at the cathedral, they didn't complain. Not once. Ethan carried my bag. Aiden held my elbow when the ground got uneven. They asked the guide questions. Real ones. About the history, the architecture. At one point, the guide pointed out a carving of an old saint with a staff and a tired expression. "She looks like you, Nana," Aiden whispered, grinning. "Except I'm way hotter," I whispered back. He snorted. Later, we sat at a cafe and ordered churros. The boys dipped them in the chocolate, eyes going wide. "Okay, this slaps," Ethan admitted. "Language," I said automatically. He smiled. On the flight home, they insisted on sitting with me. Aiden took the aisle, Ethan the window. Me, safely snug between them, my walker stowed and my little blanket tucked around my legs. When the turbulence hit this time, Ethan glanced at me immediately. "You okay, Nana?" he asked. "I'm fine," I said. And I was. Aiden kept a hand on the back of my chair, just in case. Back in Ohio, the fallout was intense. Jenna cried when she saw us at the arrivals gate. She hugged the boys, then pulled back and smacked each of them gently on the shoulder. "How could you?" she demanded. They took it. They didn't argue. They both tried to apologize at once, and she held up a hand and said, "No, not to me, to her." Then pointed at me like a lawyer on TV. We had that first family therapy session a week later. The therapist, a kind-eyed woman with a sensible haircut, listened to the story, eyebrows almost hitting her hairline when we got to the part about me canceling the tickets. "You left your grandmother alone in Barcelona?" she asked the boys. They stared at their shoes. "And you canceled your grandson's flights and shut off their phones?" she said to me. I nodded. She leaned back in her chair. "Well," she said, "we're not going to be bored, that's for sure." We talked about entitlement, about fear, about aging, about how it feels to go from being the person who carries everyone else to being the one everyone thinks they have to carry. At one point, the therapist asked Aiden, "When you turned that corner and left your grandmother on that bench, what did you think?" He swallowed. I thought, "Finally," he admitted. Like, finally, we can just be free for a day. And as soon as I thought it, I felt gross. Like I was leaving my dog tied to a pole or something. "I'm not a dog either," I said, but gently. "I know," he said quickly. "That's what made it worse. I thought, she'll be fine. Old people are fine. They know how to do old people stuff. It never occurred to me that you might actually be in danger. That's messed up, right?" He looked at the therapist. She nodded slowly. "It's honest," she said. "And it's a start." Ethan talked about pressure, about always being told he was the responsible one, and how he secretly hated that and sometimes wanted to act out. And instead of saying that, the therapist said, "You abandoned your grandmother in a foreign city?" He winced. "When you say it like that is how it is," I cut in. "There's no softer version." He nodded miserably.
And you? The therapist turned to me. What did it feel like to watch your grandsons flounder for 2 days? I thought about it. Like watching a toddler touch a hot stove in slow motion. You don't want them burned, but you also don't want them to think the glowing red coil is a toy. So you let them get close enough to feel the heat. Except you turned the stove on, Ethan muttered, a trace of his old sarcasm showing. We all looked at each other. Then, unexpectedly, we all laughed. Even the therapist. It broke the tension in the room like a dropped plate. After that, things shifted. Not overnight, not magically, but slowly. The boys got jobs. Ethan at a grocery store, Aiden at a warehouse. They complained, sure, about sore feet, early mornings, rude customers.
Every time I said, travel is expensive. They grumbled, but they kept going. They came over to my condo more often. At first, it was out of obligation. They'd slump on my couch, scrolling their now restored phones, doing the bare minimum. Then one day, Aiden walked in with a bag of groceries. "What's that?" I asked. "I'm making you dinner," he said. "Spanish omelet, tortilla, whatever. I saw you ate it there and you liked it, so..." I watched a video. I watched him fumble with potatoes, muttering under his breath, so concentrated he didn't touch his phone once. It was the best tortilla española I've ever had, even if it was slightly burned on one side. Another time, Ethan showed up with a folded piece of paper. "What's this?" I asked. "My schedule," he said. "We're doing inventory next month, and I don't know, thought you might want to know when I'm free. To hang out." I taped it to my fridge. Sometimes, when I can't sleep, I walk into the kitchen, turn on the light, and look at that piece of paper. 2 boys, 2 jobs, 2 lives starting to stretch outward. And a little penciled-in note on Saturdays that says, Nana, in all caps. A few weeks ago, one of their friends came over while I was visiting Jenna's house. Tall kid, piercing, hair dyed an orange that hurt my eyes. He'd apparently heard the story. "The Spain thing is wild," he told them as I sat at the table, sipping my tea. "Like my grandpa just gives us $20 and complains about gas prices. Yours canceled your passports." "Flights," Ethan corrected, "not passports." "And she was watching the whole time?" the friend asked, eyes wide. "Yup," Aiden said. The friend glanced at me, then back at them. "Dude," he said, half awed, half horrified, "your grandma is savage." Aiden grinned. "Yeah," he said, "but she's our savage." Ethan nudged him. "Shut up," he muttered, but he was smiling too. The friend turned to me. "I'm never messing with you, ma'am," he said. "Good," I replied. "I'm retired. I have time to plan." They all laughed. Later, after the boys had gone to play video games, Jenna sat across from me at the kitchen table. "You know," she said, "I hated you for about 24 hours. "I know," I said. "But then, Aiden called me from the hotel computer after you talked to him. He was crying. He said, 'Mom, we're idiots. Nana could have died and we were at the beach.'" She wiped at her eyes. "He's cried before," she said, "when he didn't get what he wanted, when a girl dumped him. But this was different. This was embarrassed crying, shame crying. I've never heard that from him before." I nodded. "There are some lessons," I said slowly, "that can only be taught by fear and embarrassment. I wish it weren't true, but if a little controlled panic now means they don't cause a real tragedy later..." She reached across the table and took my hand. "You did what I couldn't," she said. "You let them fall." "No," I said. "They shoved me. I just let gravity do the rest." We sat in comfortable silence. From the living room, I heard laughter. My boys. My almost men. "Do you ever regret it? Canceling the flights, suspending the phones, watching them flail?"
I thought about hot stone streets and a young woman named Lucia, about airplane seats between strangers, about hotel chairs and guilt and churros dipped in chocolate. No, I said. I regret not doing something like it sooner. People online call it the most incredible and unusual revenge story of 2025. The boys told 2 friends who told 10 more, who apparently posted a dramatic version on the internet somewhere. Now there are comments from strangers saying, this can't be real, and queen energy, and those boys needed that. I don't know about queens or energy. I am just a 60-year-old woman with a walker and a low tolerance for disrespect. Revenge to me has never been about hurting someone back. It's about holding up a mirror long enough and steady enough that they can't look away. Sometimes it takes canceled flights, suspended phones, and one long walk in the Spanish heat. Sometimes it just takes a firm no and the courage not to rush in and fix everything. Ethan and Aiden still walk faster than me. They're 18. That's their job. But now, when we go anywhere, Target, the park, even just from the car to the house, they automatically adjust. They pause at the curb, turn, and reach out a hand without thinking. Watch your step, Nana, they say. And that, more than any online story or dramatic title, is the real ending. Not the most incredible or unusual revenge of 2025, just a grandmother who refused to be luggage and 2 boys who finally learned how to walk at her speed.
So another story of my grandmother has end, and be clicking here you will have when more such stories.